Hey everybody, welcome back to the Roundtable of Wraith for some exciting Flesh and Blood content. I am Chris and joined by the ever-present familiar face Ryan, the assassin hero today. Not the generic token today, Ryan. You've kind of stepped up your game a little bit.
I graduated coming out with the Levi video, so you guys decided to give me a little promotion. It was nice.
Yeah, you got there. You put in the work, so level up time. Yeah. But how are you doing today?
I'm doing all right, man. Besides the weather that's going on trying to blow us away. But other than that, really excited for not only the world's schedule. As soon as we're done here, I got to tune in there and catch some draft. And I think it's Blitz today.
Yeah, Blitz today. Yeah.
Then also really hyped for Dynasty. Excited. There's a lot of exciting things in the world of Flesh and Blood.
Yeah.
Pretty excited overall.
I totally agree. And in typical roundtable style, which I feel like, some players can probably relate to this kind of, I guess, schedule, quote unquote, or, you go through the initial wave of the previous set, and maybe towards the end, you kind of dwindle down a little bit and maybe look at some other interests or hobbies. And then boom, here comes the spoilers. We're right back in full force. So we're getting pumped again to get some more reps and check out these new cards, all these new archetypes.
Maybe we'll get a Welsh sighting soon enough. Who knows?
Yeah, right. I mean, this is the time. It is the time of the season, as they say. So speaking on that note, not that it was really predicted or alluded to at all, but we got a brand new class in a supplemental set, which is pretty exciting. And it kind of makes a little sense when you now look at the full spoiler, because there were so many cards in the set, and we were thinking like, man, are they going to give like 10, 15, 20 cards to every class? But now it makes a little more sense where this central section of the numbers are filled out by this assassin class. So I'm not sure about you, Ryan, but it's pretty exciting to have this Arachne Huntsman part of the spider group in here. So
whenever there's like a new class in general in this game, I feel like there's just a buzz that goes on. Like everyone's just like, oh my god, this is the coolest thing. Yeah, right? I think he's no different. I think he's just really cool. His lore, like he comes in just assassinating the Emperor. Like,
yeah,
you're a fan of the lore. That's like what's more juicy than just scrapping the Emperor and then being like, yo, I'm a new class, I'm a new hero, and my cards are sick.
Yeah, talk about making an entrance. So
yeah.
On that note, on the screen here, we're seeing Arachne the Huntsman, and he has an ability here where it says, whenever you play a card with contract, so new keyword, contract, you may look at the top card of target opponent's deck. You may put it on the bottom. So with that ability in mind, I think it's pretty important that we kind of clarify or examine what the contract mechanic is. So the keyword contract is associated or plugged into attack action cards. So you're seeing here, Annihilate the Armed is a attack action assassin with contract. And at the bottom there, you can see there's the parentheses helper text, and it says, a contract is active while it's face up in the arena. So as long as it's on the combat chain and you don't close the chain if there's go again or whatever, if you happen to randomly, quote unquote randomly, or if you are able to look at the top and see if you want it there or not, if you banish that card and it's the same type as a contract face up on an attack action card on the combat chain, you are fulfilling that contract and you get the reward trigger, which in most cases is a silver token.
I think in all cases, right?
Yeah, I don't think there's anything that's different, I believe.
I think in all cases, if you fulfill the contract, you get a silver. And it's also, you can fulfill that contract multiple times.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not a one and done situation. So we're going to get to a card like Eradicate, where if it hits, you banish X amount of cards from your opponent's deck, and that X is how much damage Eradicate does. And Eradicate wants yellows. If you find 4 yellows, let's say it deals 4 damage, and you find 4 yellows, you create 4 silver tokens. So it's not just a one and done thing, it stacks.
Yeah, that's pretty nasty. It's pretty
nasty. Yeah, it's absurd.
And as we're going to see as we kind of go through these attack action cards, a lot of these are very cheap, 0 cost, 1 cost, and they're hitting those breakpoints naturally most of the time. So just kind of thinking about playing against the class, it seems pretty terrifying to try to prevent or figure out, which of these on hits do you want to stop or block with your equipment or whatever.
He also has some dirty little tricks that an assassin obviously would, that we'll get to too. So even if you do try to block perfectly, he's usually got something, up his sleeve that's gonna screw you over.
Indeed, indeed. So with that kind of context on the table here, we'll get back to these common cards in just a second. I think another place to start that's important is looking at the weapon. So we have the Spider's Bite, and these are one-handed assassin weapon daggers. And it says once per turn action, 2 resources, attack with natural go again. And there's another new keyword here, piercing 1. If this is defended by an equipment, it has +1 power. Very, very cool. And it says when this hits a hero, the next time they defend with 1 or more attack action cards this turn, those cards have -1 block while defending, and it's 1 power itself. What are you thinking, Ryan?
I mean, this thing is dirty. I mean, I think it's going to be very hard. When you look at one-handed daggers, right, I think initially it's like, oh, so his play pattern is going to be dagger, dagger, attack action card, whatever, right? And I don't necessarily think that's correct. I know there's been a lot of talk kind of on the Discord and things like that, where a lot of times you just want to lead with that one bite. Don't fall into the kind of the pattern of Kadachi, because if they do block the second spider bite, then you lose your buffs. So be aware of that. You kind of usually want to go 1 dagger and then attack action card. And then if you have that go again, maybe dagger 2 with an attack action card if you have the resources. So I think right there's an interesting little strategy like interwoven and how you're going to order and your order of attacks and things. And then secondly, the piercing keyword is just so cool because if you do get to a situation late game where you are in quote unquote Kadachi lock territory, if they have like a 1 block left on like any type of Brave Forge Bracers, there's one. If they saved 1 block there, it's useless against the bite because now the bite goes over and gets a +1 attack. Mm-hmm. So this could be really nasty late game to kind of nullify those late game iron or equipment blocks that people have. And then the last clause where if it does hit, which most likely no one's going to block this, mm-hmm. right? So you're probably getting this effect off every turn. Just gets out of hand. I mean, -1 for attack action cards. If you're against a Phi, which plays all attack action cards, or like Bolton, which plays all attack action cards most of the time, mm-hmm. right? Now you come in like, let's say Spider Bite, Command and Conquer, and you're threatening their arsenal. They need to block now 3 cards usually with a Spider Bite in order to prevent their arsenal. And now you're taking away their entire turn next game or next turn. So I think this thing is pretty gross. And I think that, his ability to just make your opponent really, really focus on blocks and being perfect on everything is going to be kind of his strength, among other things.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, it is pretty crazy when you use that Phi example. Like, if the bite hits and they have like some 2 blocks in their hand, I mean, that's just ridiculous, right? They're blocking.
You're doing whatever you want.
Yeah, it's crazy. And to your point there about the play pattern, I agree where there is some sentiment or people are talking like, oh man, $2 is a lot for that initial attack. But, so to your point about the play pattern where, say you can save 1 blue, you're not going to want to, well, 1, you can't afford to swing twice with both daggers, but it is more likely that you just attack once for 2 resources with the bite, and then you have either 0 or 1 attack to follow it up. And that's could be a pretty consistent way to, play the class until you want to decide to keep, a big 5-carder or whatever you want to do to kind of go nuts.
Yeah, I mean, I think, these things are nasty. I think they're very good. It's going to be exciting to get them on the table and really start playing and testing them against every hero. For sure.
So now that we have the idea of the dagger getting in there and, softening up the opponent to weaken their blocks, let's kind of take a look at these contract cards. And we're going to start here with Plunder the Poor. And I like how the flavor here is incredible because every name of the card kind of implies as to what the contract is looking for. So we'll kind of see that flavor theme throughout these comments here. But
a lot of alliteration too.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. You're right. Yeah, you're right. I didn't think about that. So Plunder the Poor, this is a cycle contract, 0 cost, 4 attack, 3 block. You are contracted to banish opponent's cards with cost 1 or less. When you complete this contract, create a silver. And as all of these have, at the bottom, when it hits a hero, banish the top card of their deck. This one seems like it's going to be pretty good in a lot of matchups. So what do you think, Ryan?
Yeah, I think this is a staple. And like to kind of go back to Arachne's ability. Remember, when you play this, you get to choose and see what that top card of the opponent's is. So if I know that I'm playing Plunder the Poor and I see a 0 cost on the deck, I can leave it on top. So then it's like, there's a lot of mind games that goes with this too, because now my opponent might be like, oh my God, so now I have a 0 cost on top. Do I want to block this out because he knows it's there? Do I prevent him from getting a silver? What do I do here? And I mean, or it could just be a bluff by you. Like, okay, he's got this really bad card on top. Even if I don't banish it, I don't really care. But I'm going to leave it there for the mind game. So it's another layer of Arachne that I think makes him really cool. But Plunder the Poor, I think, it's very strong. 0 for 4, 3 block is just the rate that we always want on all of our cards. And most decks, and not all of them, but like most decks, I would say, are playing 1s and 0s to some effect. I mean, obviously, maybe the Guardians this comes out against, but pretty much everybody else is playing some combination of 0 or 1 or something like that.
Sure. Yeah, and to that point, maybe that's why this one is in the rare slot compared to some of the other ones. So there's also the yellow here, which is the 3 for 0, and then the blue, which is a 2. So
blue's very good too. I think the blue's very strong.
Yeah.
A lot of his blues are going to be on that level too. A 0 for 2 with a threatening on hit, and if you have a way to give it go again or to go over, it's a good card to have.
Sure. All right, let's move on to as you mentioned, the alliteration, right? We have Rob the Rich here, which is another rare. Yep, Robin the Rich. So 1 coster, and we got a 5 power on this one. And the contract on this is you are contracted to banish opponent's cards with cost 2 or greater. When you complete it, make a silver. Well, there is a hero right now that's very prevalent in the metagame who likes to play a lot of expensive cards. Oh, I don't know. It's just this guy that sometimes holds a shield or maybe a hammer or something.
Oh,
yeah.
Heard of him.
So, yeah, what do you think about this one?
I think this one is. I still think, even though this might not hit as much as Plunder the Poor does, I think this still finds its way in most of the matchups. And it is still a 1 for 5. It's still raw damage. And even if you're not connecting with the silver, which silver management is going to be a big thing with him, and kind of learning that play is going to be kind of the level ups for him. Even if you're not banishing, his target there, this is an opportunity to give you an on hit and to still banish maybe a threatening card from it. Like if I'm against a Phi and I turn over, let's say, Phoenix Form, or no, I know not many people are playing that, but, or like, what's the one where everything gets +1 on the chain?
Uprising?
Or like, no, like an Art of War, like a Spreading Flames. That's
sure.
Spreading Flames are like Art of War, right? Mm-hmm. And I hit and I can banish an Art of War because this is more likely to hit than a 0 for 4, right? So even if I'm taking away a threat like that, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that trade if I'm not making silver. So I think the on hit there and still banishing a card is very good. Yeah,
to your point there, there's going to be definitely a lot of value in just the vanilla ability to banish by itself, even if you're not 100%. Making silvers. Yeah, so totally agree there. And then the yellow here is a 1 for 4, and then the blue is a 1 for 3. So typical cycle here. Moving on to the first one we saw, which is Annihilate the Armed. This is 1 for 5, and the contract is to banish opponent's attack action cards. Yikes. So like you said, Ryan, using the classic Phi example, I mean, you have a very high percentage here on this one.
His block's going to be bad because you probably daggered him before. Like 1 blue gets you a dagger and this card. So you're probably guaranteed to make some silver. And then when we talk about his mask, there's a pretty good chance against Phi to be making, multiple silvers with this card alone. So, again, I think this is a card that you just put in your deck, even if you're against, an attack or a deck like Briar that has a bunch of non-attacks where you might be a little bit more likely to not hit. You're still playing this card. Like if I play this card against Briar and I hit, Channel Mount, oh damn, I didn't make a silver, but okay,
Yeah. And even on the other side of that, let's say against a deck like Briar, if you do hit that attack action card, maybe you're making their hand now super awkward on that next draw where they're down 1 attack action. Then they could get to that classic all non-attack action hand that is dreaded for that class. But the yellow is a 1 for 4 and a blue is the 1 for 3. So
I don't know if I like the other 2 colors. I think for the blue slot, I think there's just so much competition because of the 0 costers and stuff like that. But I think as a red, it's very good. I know people like the yellow. I don't know if he necessarily needs it. Depends on the space that you have. But yeah,
Sure.
I think all these cards are just so cool. Like, I mean, I'm coming from like a warrior and like Dromite, like nothing that I've ever done in this game for a while has had on hits. So
Sure.
I'm looking at these and I'm like, everything has an on hit.
Yeah.
This is gonna be a new world for me. So I'm like really
Right.
excited to play to jump into this. But the flavor, the different, the way that you have to maneuver it, it's so cool.
Yeah, totally agree. Next we have Fleece the Frail. This is a 0 for 4, so the juicy 0 for 4s you were talking about, and we're stealing from the poor here, people. This is, you are contracted to banish opponent's cards with 2 or less block. 2 or less block. So interesting. Maybe, I mean, when you really think about it, there actually are a good amount of cards that do block for 2, but as far as the percentage of that off the top, hard to really say unless it's a particular matchup. But at the bottom line here, we're at a 0 for 4.
Yeah, again, 0 for 4 is fantastic. And I mean, thinking about like maybe Guardian and maybe like Dromai or like Illusionist or Warrior, everybody else is running 2 blocks in some capacity. So again, it's a 0 for 4 for 3. This one might be like, it could be a sideboard card that you put in for, Runeblade matchups or Ninja matchups and things like that. But if you're just looking for 0 for 4s and good value and a 3 block, then you have it. You have another one of these tools here.
Yeah. Mention on that point, his card's blocked for 3. That's a good spot. That's a good spot to be. The yellow is a 0 for 3, and the blue is a 0 for 2. So, like you were saying in the previous card, here's a 0 blue here for 2. So, could be a good choice for your blue include. After Fleece the Frail, we have NYX the Nimble. This is the 1 for 5 or 1 for 4 on the yellow, 1 for 3 on the blue. And this contract is for opponents' reaction cards. So I don't know, Ryan, what matchups do you think this would be? Or maybe here's something too, against Assassin, maybe people are more prone to bring in reaction cards. So maybe that ceiling kind of goes up a little bit there.
I think this one, of all the ones that we've seen so far, I think this is the first like fringe one to where like this might not make the deck, because I don't know if you need it. How threatening are reaction cards? There's always going to be a lesser percentage of reaction cards in a deck. Even Dorinthia decks, like she has a lot of pre-pumps. She's not running a ton of reaction cards. Or I shouldn't say a ton, but her percentage of reaction cards to the rest of her deck still isn't, high enough to where you're going to almost guarantee, like the attack action card against Phi, you know what I'm saying? Or even the non-attacks against the Rune Blades. So I think this one's kind of fringy. This will be a good little tool kind of in the binder. Like if they do come up with a new Warrior next set, or a new another Guardian, or if like the Guardian cards that kind of were spoiled recently, if that becomes an archetype and starts dominating the meta, then I would see you kind of slot this in a little bit. But this might be good. I'm certainly going to test it against certain matchups, but of all the ones I've seen, I think this one might be the least useful.
Sure. Yeah, and when I was kind of explaining the card there, I was just kind of zoned in on D reacts. I wasn't even thinking about attack reaction. So yeah, to your point, matchup dependent, but it's a cool card to exist if you need that sort of thing, for sure.
Yes, I agree.
Maybe the mirror turns out to be, who knows? Time will tell. SAC the Shifty. Love SAC the Shifty. And this art here is just so savage, just chopping that dude's foot off right at the angle.
Yeah,
I mean,
there goes your Achilles, boy.
Geez, forget about it. Yeah. And here's another 0 for 4.
Not going to be too shifty anymore.
No, I mean, that's pretty brutal. But this one, as the Shifty implies, contract is base, or cards that have base go again, natural go again. So yeah, I think this one's pretty good. Again, going back, not to be a broken record here, but the 0 for 4, that's where you want to be.
It's good, 0 for 4. Phi is a thing. He exists. So this could be one that you pull out depending on who you're against. But you always keep going back to 0 for 4. Again, not to sound like a broken record, but 0 for 4, 3 block for the red is pretty good. This guy's resource curve is so low that you might just be able to get away with just throwing in good attacks. And to reiterate, just because you might not be making silver on this particular hit, you are still banishing cards from the top of the deck, which at least the less cards they have to play with, the faster you win the game.
That's true.
So that's another win con or another piece of pressure that people might not know how to analyze yet, just because of how early he is and how little testing is going on. I imagine all the people that are, at the tournament right now probably didn't test with him because they were testing their decks. So
right.
I haven't really seen, it's basically all of us plebs that didn't qualify or didn't go to Worlds that are like testing on Talishar right now, trying to break the assassin meta.
Right. Well, yeah, the yellow for 3, blue for 2, not shifting anymore. On the next,
now without an ankle.
Now without an ankle, yeah. Slay the Scholars, 0 for 4. Contracted to banish opponent's non-attack action cards. So let's get this in against Kano or Icelander, huh? Pretty nasty.
Oh, the Rune Blades, Bolton, like Dorinthia. I think this is just a good card. I think this can target anybody really. Everybody's going to be running some percentage of non-attacks, so I think this is just a very good card. This might be just in the deck, regardless of what your matchup is. I think this has a little bit more use than base Go Again, so I think this is just generically good.
Sure. It's this poor wizard guy. He's just, or whoever he is, he's just trying to read the book, and that's not going to happen.
He's not on Sif, I don't think, but he's on a different art and like.
The character in the book, in the art.
Yeah, the old wizard guy. I don't know. He's on a different card, and he's like kind of just reading a book by himself.
Okay.
And now this guy's just gonna get like a little dagger to the throat.
Forget it. Yeah, poor guy.
He's trying to read up on some spell.
Yellow 0 for 3, blue 0 for 2. A pattern as old as time itself. So
that's the attack actions, yeah?
Yeah, that is the common attack actions. So with that, I think let's check out these attack reaction cards. These are insane, by the way.
Nuts.
So
nuts.
First, let's take a look at Shred. And before I talk about the card, this art is completely bananas. I mean, look at this guy. That is so savage, whatever. I mean, holy moly.
That's awful.
We got Henrique Linder on this art. So
good job, Mr. Linder.
Clearly a twisted individual, so nice job, Henrique, on that. But this card is a 0 cost attack reaction card, 3 block, mind you. Target card defending an assassin attack gets -4 block this combat chain. Oh my goodness. Yikes.
Crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, you definitely run the blue in this because like a lot of times you're not really going for damage. You're going for like on hit, and you can just kind of screw a person over just by doing this. But the red being -4 is like definitely sideboard material. They play a sink below trying to be like, oh, I'm going to be cheeky. I'm going to sink, and now you're 0 for 4. And then you just make it a 0.
Yeah.
It's so savage. That's crazy.
Yeah, so you're thinking initial build for you, you're for sure putting the blue in.
Yes, I think the blue block 3 is 0 cost, and it has a relevant effect. I think it's almost like a no-brainer. Like it definitely goes in.
Sure.
And then
what about the yellow? What do you think about the yellow?
Yeah, yellow and red are both good. So for me, I like the other attack reaction better that we're going to get to in a second. I think it's a little bit more. I'm going to run the rainbow of that card.
I see.
Versus the rainbow of this card.
I see.
I think I would probably put in Shred as the red as sideboard, have the blue in the main board because it does have utility. If a person perfect blocks you, so like you got to think you're going to dagger, right? So now their attack actions have -1.
Yep.
So if you put a threatening one out there, like leave no witnesses, like we'll talk about in a second. Let's say they block with 2 attack actions for the perfect block of 4. You can now blue Shred and make one of those 0. Whereas red Shred would have done the same thing in that scenario.
Sure, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, the dagger kind of makes the blue more juicy than without the dagger. Yeah. Red
is very good against Oldham. It's very good against Bravo. Any of these decks that have these really big attack reactions or defense reactions, then red Shred makes a little bit more sense. But there's not going to be a lot of scenarios where you're going to need a full -4. Then the blue has a little bit more utility.
Makes sense. I like that. So speaking on that note, you were talking about cutting to the chase here.
Yeah, card's insane.
This is the other one. Again, zero cost, 3 blocker. Target assassin attack action card with contract gains +3 power. And then you get to look at the top card of Defending Hero's deck, and you may put it on the bottom. So you get another Arachne trigger, so to speak, built into this attack reaction.
It's insane. I mean, I remember when Iron Song Response, you needed to be defended in order to get the +3 as a 0 cost with a 3 block. And this thing's just like, bam, free attack. Congratulations. And also get now another. I think the Magic people call this a Fate Seal. But like an opponent's opt. This card is insane. I'm going to run all 9 of this. Like, this is just bananas.
Yeah, it's funny that they actually put the text says an assassin attack action card with contract gains +3, because to this point we haven't seen one that doesn't have the contract. But I guess that leaves it open to some design space, which is pretty cool. If it just said target assassin attack action card +3, that's obviously way better than making sure you have the contract card or contract.
We get like a talented assassin down the line that might not be as invested in contracts as, say, Arachne is, then this card kind of is useless. So I like that. I like that clause there.
Yellow is +2 naturally, and then +1 on the blue. So you say you're sticking off all 9 of these in there at the start?
They're going to have such a hard time blocking you that all of these are going to be good. They're all going to lead to on hits. So like they're never going to be able to overblock or perfectly block. And if they do, you just arsenal it and save it for the next time that they have to perfectly block. Like it's this card's nasty.
Yeah, it's pretty insane. All right, so that's all of the commons, I believe, that we have covered now. So let's go up to these here M's. And we'll start here with Eradicate. And just looking at this art here, I mean, this person has completely just laid waste to an entire group of baddies, I suppose, or goodies. You never really know who they are. But this is I think this was Red Zone Rogues card, maybe? I can't recall exactly.
Yeah, one of them.
Yeah, a couple. Yeah.
Right.
So this is a yellow 1 for 4, 3 block attack action card. Contract, you are contracted to banish opponent's yellow cards. Then it also says, when this hits a hero, banish the top X cards of their deck, where X is the damage dealt by Eradicate. Holy moly. Let's say, Ryan, that you cut to the chase on this Eradicate, and you're going way over the top here, and you're getting like 4 cards or whatever, and you got some contracts out there. I mean, that's just busted. That's crazy.
You get 3 of these in the deck. Remember that. 3 of these in your deck. So like this is like what you save cut to the chase and shred for. Like if you can set up major Eradicate turns, like you are in business, because I mean you're just thinning your opponent's deck by like numbers we haven't seen before. Like if you can do 7, even 10 damage with this thing, you're just going to deck your opponent out at that point. And like you can switch strategies at that. If you see that their opponent's struggling, you can just full block everything and just fatigue them because you block so perfectly. This card is just so good. It's probably, I mean, between this and the next card we're going to talk about, it's the best card in the deck. And you want to like set this up. So the thing is, Eradicate, Leave No Witnesses, and the other one, which I believe is Surgical Extraction. As always, you kind of want to make sure that these are the second cards on the chain, because these are the ones that are going to be like the most threatening and the ones that are going to also fulfill the most contracts. So like if you play like with Eradicate, for example, and the first card you play is Rob the Rich, that's a 1 for 5. Let's go Plunder the Poor. So you play Plunder the Poor first, you give it go again, that's still active on the chain, then you play Eradicate, and Eradicate hits. Every time you banish a card now that is a yellow or that costs 1 or less, you're making silver, because you're fulfilling Plunder the Poor and Eradicate. Yep. So be a little bit strategic with Eradicate. Don't just throw it out there first, because then your opponent can just cover it up with 3 cards. Be sneaky and set up your other contracts with cards like this.
Sure. There's going to have to be some kind of achievement for like the first assassin player to get 50 silver. It's a free booster box or something, because you did it. Yeah. So to your point here, let's check out this next one here. Leave No Witnesses. This is also a heavy hitter here. 0 for 4. Contract. You are contracted to banish opponent's red cards. I don't think anyone plays red cards, right?
No one plays reds.
No one plays reds in Flesh and Blood. Why would you do that? And when it hits a hero, banish the top card of their deck and up to 1 card in their arsenal.
Chris, let me get this straight. We have a 0 for 4
Mm.
with an on hit that is Command and Conquer.
Mm-hmm.
We have attack reactions in our deck that can make this insured, almost guaranteed to hit.
Mm-hmm.
It's also like Command and Conquer. Is that what you're telling me here?
Apparently that's true. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so this card seems decent.
It seems okay. It seems okay.
Seems decent.
This card is completely bananas, dude. This is just so nuts.
It's crazy.
Make sure you save your Crown of Providence, children, for this one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
But I mean, to your point there, that example you gave last card or on the Eradicate of setting up the chain to do a big one. I mean, on the red ones here, I mean, that is, if there's any way we can somehow get multiple triggers on this, I mean, on the red and you're just stacking up those silvers, that's pretty good. It's pretty good.
Here's the thing, and I'm pretty sure I know the answer to this. Let's say you play Leave No Witnesses after you play Plunder the Poor. Let's say you banish I would assume if you banish a red 0 cost with this card, you would make 2 silvers because you're satisfying 2 contracts. Is that correct?
I would believe that to be true, yeah. That's even better.
Pretty insane too. Yeah.
That's
so you're getting
better.
multiple triggers on one card if you can do that, which is pretty crazy.
Sure.
It's just good value,
I mean, this card, if this card didn't even have the contract, this would still be bananas with that bottom part alone. So
I'm just looking at the picture, yeah.
Yeah, that too. So after we leave No Witnesses, we're going on. I'm going to skip Regicide and come back to that in a minute. We're going to go to Surgical Extraction, as you were mentioning. This is a blue, which is really cool. They didn't have to make it a blue, but they decided to. So that's pretty sick.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, thanks. Appreciate that. 2 for 4. And this is a contract to banish your opponent's blue cards. And then it says at the bottom, when this hits a hero, banish the top card of their deck, then look at their hand and banish a card. This one is nasty as well.
And all 3 of these cards are just disgusting. This card's amazing. The fact that it's blue is stupid. Mm-hmm. The 2 cost makes it a little bit more on par, or like on rate. It's a little bit, makes it a little bit fair. So you have to be a little bit smart about how you play this. It's not just Leave No Witnesses as a 0 for 4 is ridiculous.
Yeah.
This one, you have to be a little bit more intelligent. You got to be a little bit more thoughtful and sneaky with it. But again, if this thing hits, taking 2 cards and making sure it's like a Dominia effect. Like you take a card from their hand and you get to pick if it's blue or not. You're almost guaranteed to get silver there.
That's nasty.
This card is just so strong.
And hypothetically too, they're going to be putting something out there to block with it in the first place, and then if you can go over the top and take their last, you could essentially skip their turn possibly, depending on how things line up. So pretty nuts. Let's go to Payday. It's an interesting card. 0 cost blue. It's just an action card, and it says if you've completed a contract this turn, create 4 silver tokens. So we haven't gotten to the legendary equipment yet, or any of the equipment that where you're spending silver to get them back from the graveyard. However, I think I'm not sure what your take is, but it's going to be interesting to see if this is worthwhile or not, if you're going to need it or not, or can we get as greedy as possible and also play cash in this deck and try to get all the silvers? So I think it's going to be an interesting kind of puzzle to figure out as far as, do you include the Payday? Do you not? Do you include cash in? Do you not? It's just reps are just going to determine. You can see how many silvers you're accumulating over the course of the game.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. I like that it's blue. I like that it's a 3 block, because then even if you're not getting the ability, it has utility for sure. 0 cost is nice, but how often are you getting to the end of the chain and playing this card, right? That having Go Again is, it's easier in this deck because of the legs that we're getting that we're going to talk about in a second. A little bit easier. You're going to probably play Razor in this deck, so you're going to have Go Again. But are you ever going to get Go Again after the second hit?
Right.
That's kind of the question. So if you play, I would rather play a contract on the second than play this card and just get 4 silvers. So I like the idea of this card. I like that it exists. But to me, this almost feels soul foodie a little bit, where it's like on when you first read it, you're like, wow, 4 silvers, that seems incredible. But then I think in the context of the game, it's not going to be as doable as you would like. So I don't know. I think there might just be better cards that can go in this slot. Yeah,
to your point there, it's like, well, you could play a Payday and get 4 silvers, or let's just attack him again. And
play another card that another contract blue
Right.
that attacks at the end of the chain.
Exactly. Yeah. So I definitely agree with you that it's cool that it exists and it's just something to think about and consider. But yeah, we'll see. Time will tell. I mean, the guy's tossing that little package of coins around like,
That boy got paid.
time to go to the boat, That's it. All right, so after Payday, we have Regicide. Now, this is a crazy card. There is a win condition on.
You're all about win cons.
Hey, man, it's awesome, dude. First attack action card, alternate win condition. This is Arachne's legendary specialization, so not to be confused with the rarity. The legendary implies you can only have one copy of it in your deck, as we've seen with other legendary specializations in the past. 0 cost blue, 3 power. When this hits a royal hero, they lose the game. Talk about some flavor there. When the combat chain closes, you lose the game. And at the bottom here, this is the very important part where it says Regicide can't be defended by cards with the same name as cards in the defending hero's banish zone. So hypothetically, if you're banishing all these cards and your opponent happens to be royal sometime in the middle or later stages of the game, it is entirely possible that they are not able to block this thing at all. And then boom, game's over.
Yeah, I mean, if you're squaring up against somebody and you present your hero and then they play Crown of Dominion and make their hero royal, then they shouldn't play the game. What I like about this card, not the royal thing and not the losing. Obviously, losing the game sucks. You don't want to lose the game. But this is almost like a fifth cycle card, right? You're grinding out to the end of the game. You keep pitching this as you keep getting it. And, throughout the game, you're hitting, you're eradicating, you're leaving no witnesses, you're banishing multiple cards. You can get into a situation late game where, the opponent only has maybe a card in deck or something like that, and you've banished their entire deck where now you win the game because you can just pump this up a little bit and do as much damage as they have left. Is it kind of memey? Maybe. But it's a cool card. It's a cool art. I'm glad that it exists. We'll see how much actual use it is, but yeah. I think it's very cool.
Yeah, I mean, as of right now, as you mentioned, the crown is the opponent choosing to make themselves royal.
Yeah.
So unless eventually, if we get away where assassins or somehow you can quote unquote, force the opponent to become royal or something, or give them that type. I really don't think too many opponents are going to be suiting up that Crown of Dominion against you.
No.
Yeah. So maybe there's risk. Go ahead.
The risk of losing the game against every other hero is probably makes this not worth it.
Yeah.
It's probably not a card that you want to include. It's going to be a fun card to play with and try out, but I feel like this will be a card right away where it's okay, this is never going to do what I want it to do. So we're gonna go a different direction.
Sure.
Has there been a cooler card reveal than this one?
Oh man, Armada just killed it on that one.
Yeah, you got the Emperor's dead. You get the artwork on this thing. Look at the dead Emperor just bleeding all over the steps.
Yep.
And then you get the class reveal at the same time. How cool is that?
What a dude. He did a great job on that, by the way. That was top tier production on that. Got to give kudos to DM Armada there. Nice work. Rightfully so. He should get a big reveal on that. He's been involved since day one, essentially. So, all right, we got 2 more left here, and we're going to go with the Mask of Perdition. This is a majestic headpiece equipment, 1 block, battle worn, and it says, while Mask of Perdition is in your graveyard, at the start of your turn, you may destroy 2 silvers you control. If you do, equip Mask of Perdition. Attack reaction, destroy Mask of Perdition. Target assassin attack action card gains. When this hits a hero, banish the top card of their deck. Ooh, baby. Man.
It has been well documented that I love Valiant Dynamo. It's probably one of my favorite cards in the game, and I just absolutely love using it. And now they are giving me 2 pseudo Valiant Dynamos, and I could not be happier with LSS. So thank you for doing this.
I mean, so really quick, Rod, since these are very similar in function as far as the silver thing, let's just look at the boots too. So the boots are the same thing when it's in your graveyard. At the beginning of your turn, you can destroy 2 silvers to bring them back, quote unquote, buy them back and equip them back onto your hero. 1 battle worn, attack reaction, destroy the black tech whisperers. Target assassin attack action card gains, when this hits a hero, it gains go again. So go again on the boots, because these boots are made for walking, and then banishing an extra card on the mask. So you can potentially on hit banish 2 cards per contract with the mask. And then
or 3 if you're leaving no witnesses.
Indeed. That's true. That's true. Or you're getting go again on the boots. And this is where these 2 cards in particular is really where the juice comes in for this deck. I mean, so it's going to be, as I was talking about before with like the whole Payday stuff, it'll be cool to see how easily you're able to stack up the silvers. And like, are you able to do this like every turn? Or you're like, what's the rate going to be on, buying back the equipment?
And also, like, not wasting blocks too. Like, these things block for 1, and every time they go to the graveyard and you re-equip, you get that block back. Mm-hmm. So you can continuously use the block over and over again. So managing, when to use it, there's gonna be a lot of like planning, right? Like, okay, if I block with the mask here, I can attack, react, and use this again. But like, you don't want to block with this and then not use the reaction, and now not have now you're down a block. Like,
sure,
you're going to block with this, not use it, or you don't have the silver, so now it's kind of just floating in your graveyard until you do buy it back. There's going to be a lot of like layers there. So I think like figuring out when to use the Mask of Perdition, like this one, Mask's ability seems pretty strong against the right deck, but I think this deck wants go again a little bit more. Mm-hmm. So now you have to put emphasis on buying back the Whisperers because you want to go again. So it's going to be a weird balancing act when to use these things and when not to. But it's going to be, they're both really awesome. I think they're just 2 of the coolest cards. Just
to kind of make a comparison to a very powerful piece of equipment that currently exists, the Snapdragon Scalers. Yeah. I mean, we've all seen the power of that in the right archetype, and seeing that this is basically a Snapdragon that you can just get back over and over and over again is completely insane. I mean, that's borderline busted if you kind of think about it in that context, So, but yeah, I like your analysis there of how it's not, you do have the option of blocking with it defensively, or you're destroying it proactively and offensively. So, like you said, there's some play there.
Like when I first saw this, I'm like, dude, you're going to block and use this every turn. And then it's like, okay, you need 2 silvers. If you destroy both, you need 4 silvers, which I don't know if that's that easy to get. Like, sure. I mean, 4 silvers is, you're probably going to do it over the course of the game, but you're probably not going to have it, unless you have an Eradicate, you're probably not going to accumulate 4 silvers in a single turn. Mm-hmm. So, just deciding which one to use and when is going to be a little bit more complicated than when I first saw it. I'm like, dude, you're doing this every turn. This is crazy. But then you're like, oh, maybe not. Maybe it's a little bit less affordable than I initially thought.
Sure. Well, maybe that's a little hedge towards the possible value of Payday if that matters. Like maybe it is worth it to kind of quote unquote waste to go again to Payday instead of attacking again, to get your equipment back. So. But yeah, as we've been saying the whole time, just got to build it and try and, see how it goes.
It's going to be a blast. I cannot wait. I also can't wait for a cold foil Mask of Perdition. That's going to be, it's going to be
bad. That's
something I own soon.
That's a hot one. So kind of just closing up here, top of your head, there's some obvious ones that stick out, but when you're constructing this deck, what are some of the generic cards that currently exist that you want to stick in here? We talked about Razor Reflex. People have been talking about Captain's Call, something like Nimbleism, even though that's not, a go again after the fact. But, what are you thinking for your initial build here?
I'm not a big Nimbleism guy, so I probably wouldn't go that direction. I think he is going to be a very defensive deck. I think he wants to play the long game pretty much more so than anybody else, because he's going to grind you out, not only in the health department, but he's grinding out your deck as well. So there's no reason to make him this incredibly fast go wide deck. And so I want to put in some defense reactions just to align to that strategy. So I think Sinks, Fates, and then That All You Got, I think definitely goes in this deck. Just gives you a little bit more of a defensive package depending on who you're against. And then I love Razor Reflex. I think that's an auto include. And then, toying with Art of War. It's the card that goes in everywhere. Obviously, it's like the jack of all trades card, but it's a good card. So giving an attack action go again instead of the +1 bump could be very good. So we'll see.
Sure.
I'd like to try out Art of War. I know some people were saying that they tried it and they didn't enjoy it. It was kind of clunky a little bit, which makes a lot of sense. But we'll have. That's kind of where my head goes. The defensive package, I think, is key. I think Sinks Fates, that all you got. So I think that's gonna really lend to his grindy nature of, lending, because people are going to be blocking this guy too. They're going to be blocking with cards from their hand. You're going to be vanishing cards. So the longer the game goes, the better chance you have of, closing it out down the line.
Sure, yeah, because you're going to be, let's just say, you're 5 or 10 cards up on them as far as, trying to mill them out, quote unquote. If you're, so we have boots and we have a helmet. We do not have a chest or gloves. So what do you think for those two?
So I think the chest, is going to be Tunic. I just don't think there's a better card right now for him.
Yeah.
And Tunic is just, I mean,
Tunic is Tunic.
But like, if you don't have a chest piece, you go with Tunic. That's just kind of the lay of the law. And I think that's kind of where he's at. So as for the arms, it's a little bit more flexible. I think if you want to be more aggressive, you can go with like Goliath Gauntlet or Cracker Jacks and give just a one-time bump. Or you can go with like Iron Rot Gauntlet and go with like the Bravo strategy and just get a +1 bump on any card that you need. Like an Iron Rot Gauntlet plus the Perdition plus Black Tech Whispers turns any one of your cards into a defense reaction, because now you can cover a breakpoint with any one of those pieces of equipment and one of your cards if you're at a 4. So I think that's pretty important. I think especially for him to kind of cover his own bases. So I would probably lean towards Iron Rod Gauntlet to start off with. But I think that, if you want to be more aggressive, what's it called? Goliath Gauntlet bumps up Surgical Extraction. It bumps up Command and Conquer, which I also think Command and Conquer goes in this deck. Spider Bite into a Command and Conquer is pretty vicious.
So I was just, now that you were talking about all that equipment stuff, it made me think about how you were saying there isn't a ton of times where you can foresee swinging both of the daggers in a turn.
Yeah.
So is there a world where you just play like the generic shield? Like you can do the one-hander, one dagger in one hand, and then the buckler.
He doesn't. Buckler's Guardian.
Oh, it's a Guardian card. My fault.
But to that point, they just released this ornate and Fennel or something like that.
Okay.
It is a generic offhand. I believe it's a 1-cost draw card, or put a card from your bottom of your deck and draw one. So that's something to toy with. Or in those arcane matchups, I definitely think you play Arcane Lantern, because you don't need the 2. So like it allows him to have a Spider Bite stab. You can get up to AB3 with like no rune gloves, no rune chest piece, and then Arcane Lantern.
Sure.
You still have Mask and Black Tech.
Yeah, that's
Whispers.
huge. That's huge, yeah.
So
he's going to be, in that Arcane matchup, he's coming out Bray Wyatt, and he's got that lantern right in front of him. Right?
That's such a good that's such a good call. I'm hyped. But yeah, I think Lantern, it makes me feel better because I bought an extended art. It wasn't expensive, but I can finally have the extended art Lantern on the table.
Dude,
finally.
It's funny you mentioned that, because that's a card that I don't own that I really, really want to get one, just because it looks so badass and I just want to have
one. So cool.
Yeah.
It's so cool.
Yeah. But it's like $20 or something, right? Nothing like 15, 20 or something. Like
I don't think it's that bad. It might be cheaper now.
Gotcha. But yeah, so this is Arachne, the Huntsman. I know, Ryan, you're super keen on getting this guy to the table. Without kind of getting into it, you've kind of made some moves here to get yourself set up to, pimp out this deck in the most classy Ryan Wags way possible.
I had to say goodbye to some dragons, and that was okay. Actually, I had to say goodbye to all my dragons, but they returned to ash, and so that the shiny bling of Arachne can rise up. It's the way that I look at it.
Sure. But yeah, everyone, thanks for watching. Appreciate it. Sam and Levi are currently in San Jose this weekend, so Ryan and I thought we'd just hop on, just a little quick hot take here. But as we approach this coming up Friday, November 11th. I'm sure you, as well as us, we're super excited to get our hands on some new product and check out this brand new class, the Assassin. So thanks for watching. On behalf of Ryan, this is Chris with the Roundtable, and we'll see you next time.